Welcome to BlackUSA.news morning show. I'm your host, William Honolulu Jr. Join us as we explore the news and opinions that impact our community. We break down how the major stories have a very personal, local, and racial impact. No topic is off limits, but even if the conversation gets rough, we're always going to keep it real. Greetings and salutations, all my friends out there in internet land. I am William Honolulu Jr., and I have the privilege and honor of serving as the host of the Black USA News Morning Show. We are going to have a great time today. You all know how we do. First up, I want to give a big shout out to the super producer, Kyle Crazy Horse Morgan, and our assistant producer, Brandy Raymar. They're always doing what they need to do to make sure we get quality content, but if I'm gonna be honest, they slipping a little bit on the job. Because see, what had happened was, as I was doing the show with our guest for the day, we didn't even press the right button first. So okay. So let me tell you what actually happened. So what had happened was, I have my wonderful guest today, a friend of mine. We go way back, like 20 some years at this point. An incredible marketing guru, training expert, Miss Bonnie Fischerkeller. And so I was so excited to talk to her. Y'all know how I get all worked up. It's like, So I started talking to her and I forgot to press the button. I did that. My bad, and/or sorry. So you're gonna catch up with us. But at the time that I realized I had forgotten to hit the button. So yeah, I had to come back and do this. So yeah, we're gonna have a great time, and a big shout out before I move on. Big shout out to my personal assistant, Miss Grace Awaka, doing a wonderful job again, making sure that I stay focused. Because there's a lot of stuff going on. Black USA has a STEM camp. As you all know, we're supporting Breadcoin. There are a couple of new shows that are coming up. We're doing constant coverage of Maryland's 2022 election cycle. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on. And again, I am so grateful for my team to help me stay focused and keep giving you all the content that you all deserve. All right, let's see what else. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the Grinding Gang. So here you go. Hi, my name is William Honolulu Jr., and I'm the host of the Black USA News Morning Show and the president of the Grinding Gang Incorporated. The Grinding Gang is an organization that helps small business owners in the nonprofit and for-profit communities figure out how to make sense of all the noise. There's a lot of information out there, and sometimes it gets a little overwhelming. We help you develop business plans. We help you figure out what to do with a lot of the information you receive, and we also help you figure out how to become more profitable. We also host a variety of workshops. You can check out our next workshop on grant writing right here. One of the things we talked about backstage was how that at a certain point, to be successful in brands, some of them require to transform your identity into theirs. Like, if anything you do at home, we talk about some of these athletes. Interestingly, not the NFL rapists, but that's a separate thing. But we talk about some of these other athletes. Yeah. Colin Kaepernick lost all of his endorsements and got fired because the brand was not consistent with what they wanted. Mm-hmm. And so as we start thinking about brands, like how much, and I guess this is the area, especially with you being a brand expert, how much of yourself do you give to the brand?
It's tough because you want to say, well, while I'm at work, I'm this, right? Mm. But when you hire me to come on board, you know a certain bit about my personality, my background, like how I behave in a room, how I lead a room. So on one hand, you are paying me for that. So you should expect that out of me, right? And so they go, okay, this is what we're getting. And we feel like this person is going to represent the message that we want sent. Mm-hmm. And so I'm assuming that our personalities kind of link up, the message and the kind of vibe that I give off about who I am.
Right.
But anything that's not mentioned in an interview or anything I don't project in an interview, I just figures off limits. This is why companies always come back and they say like, "Oh, we didn't know this about this person when they posted this on Facebook, this rant." It's like, yeah, because it's not part of the interview. So they don't purchase that. And so for as long as you're employed by that particular company, you are representing the brand and absolutely everything you do, which means in a way you're never off work.
Okay.
So, but this is why people say be who you are when you interview, let people know. It's kind of like any relationship. Like, don't lie on your bunch of dates and then your girlfriend finds out later you're something else. You don't do that.
Wait. You know what? I rebuke you for that. I rebuke you for that example. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because you automatically say your girlfriend finds out, like the default liar in a relationship is man. I rebuke that.
I needed an example.
Okay. No, it's okay. I'm working through my own stuff right now.
I need an example. And I was like, so if I pretend to be something somewhere, and then somebody finds out later, like, holy crap, you're not how you represented yourself. Is that my fault because I put on some false air? Or is it their fault for getting in a relationship with someone they didn't know?
But I think part of the issue, and that's I think what I want to get to, is that some of the stuff we kind of boiled down to is fault in these concepts of boundaries. And so I think one of the challenges that we end up having, especially in the commercial context, or especially in the traditional corporate context, it is this: you belong to the company. Your identity is subsumed with the company. And I think that's also why a lot of people are kind of like, they're redefining what work is like, why everybody wants to be an independent contractor, everybody wants to be a gig worker, and those types of things, because we are trying, our society, the system does not want work-life balance. Honestly, if I have if you think about it, if you're in charge as a small business owner, I want as much as I can get out of my employee. I don't want to exploit them, but I want as much because I'm paying this money. This money is not free money. This is coming from somewhere. And so I'm trying to get the maximum value out of it, just like you would your car. And, I would say I hate to refer to people as resources, but if we're talking corporate, let's be honest about it.
Called human resources for a reason.
Right. For human resource. Did you ever notice how human resources is actually lower in most cases than procurement? I'm just gonna say that's a real thing. But so anyway, so this idea that in order to be a brand manager or to interact with a company's brand, that you have to give your entire identity. Your kids can't do anything wrong, and this entire pressure of trying to live like that, I know it was driving me crazy when I had to do it for corporate. But so I appreciate that perspective from you about how that kind of space. Do you find any differences in when you work with small businesses when it comes to their branding and messaging as opposed to like a large company? Because I know you have experience all down the continuum.
Yeah, I have the full range. I think more with the small business, they still take business very personally. So I have found that if they hire you and you don't represent what they are, they suddenly feel lied to, right? But on a large, because they're like, whoa, we thought you were part of the family. And it's like, I'm part of your family from this time of day. And then part of mine from this time of day. And think about how people get disappointed when they're like, we thought that you were one of us and that you would behave like us all day long. And I'm like, really? You think that all 50 of us behave the same way? But we get upset. Like, think about when we got to go back many years now to when we found out Tiger Woods wasn't this like end all be all.
The nice guy.
And everyone's like, oh, and I'm all like, what's that got to do with how he plays golf? Right. So but we want to assume like we knew you and you represent this brand. And of course, then his sponsors are like, well, we kind of didn't want our shoes associated with adultery. Right. So
no, because I'm gonna push back on that. They don't want their shoes associated with adultery, because I have seen people wear rapist shoes, rapist jerseys. Yeah. Okay, so it's not that, it is you are, and we talk about this a lot on the show. And this might make you uncomfortable. I just thought about this. We talk about the magical Negro,
And so the magical Negro, I was the magical Negro for a long period. I love the way you kept a straight face. I love that. That is so brand management on point. I love it.
But also because I want to know why with me, you had to preface that with, that might offend you.
Oh, no, I said it may make you uncomfortable, not offend
why?
you. The conversation we had at the restaurant, don't act like we didn't have a pre-show stuff beforehand.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
why am I
remember
making
you asked me all like, was the reason that you weren't on the show because you were white?
Because I kind of figure, why would somebody want to hear from me? Why, like, why? What is it about what I do that would make somebody want to hear from me? And when I look at the
on the
title,
BlackUSA.news network, but that's why I'm saying, if you were concerned that people may not want to hear from you about branding because you're white, or I may not have wanted you, or I may not have thought it'd be appropriate for you to come on the show being because you're white, me talking about the magical Negro, which is controversial in Negro circles, may not be fitting. Yeah, so that's why I was saying. So, and the reason I talk about it is because I use myself as the example. When I was growing up, I was the smart kid. I was the well-behaved because they taught me how to manage brand. I didn't understand why the other kids didn't do it. Because for me, it wasn't about being yourself. The world didn't care about who you were. They only cared about that you looked the way that they wanted you to look. And I remember one time in sixth grade, fifth grade, the kid, this kid, his name was Kenneth. And as an adult, I realized that this was not Kenneth's first time in the fifth grade. As an adult, I see that now. I just thought he was much bigger than us. And so the teacher asked some homework, and I was like, and Kenneth, she called on Kenneth. Kenneth didn't know. You know, they kind of laugh. Kids laugh like that. Like, not that deep, but it's like everybody, that murmur laugh.
Yeah, that was creepy, but yeah.
It was the murmur laugh, but then it was like, because again, the way you excel in school is that you answer all the questions. You need to know all the information. You need to read all the homework. And so I had the answer. Ooh, I know the answer. And I said it chapter and verse from the book because I'm a smart guy. I remember stuff. And so we got outside, and Kenneth like pushed me down. I was like, what? He said, you tried to make me look stupid. I was like, and again, trying to be helpful. No, it's in the book. I can show you where it is when we go back in, so you can read it and you can have the answers too. So the next time she asks you, you'll have the answer. What I didn't realize is that my response to the school system and to engagement was just about shining, about being magical, about being the special one, about anything you wanted from me, I was willing to give in the classroom because you were in charge and I wanted your approval. I would have been the guy who was just following orders because I just wanted to be the magical. I was the one. And again, why aren't the rest of you all acting like me? They send me the teachers send me the trips. The teachers send me the people send me on conferences. They have me represent people. They give me money. They take me out for dinner. Like, why wouldn't you want this? Just be more like me. Because if we could all be more like me, all the Negroes would be happy.
Oh gosh.
But also recognizing as I got older that was an opportunity to separate everyone. While I am so worried about being the brand, I am not worried about your feelings. It never even hit me that Kenneth was not at home busting his ass trying to make the teacher happy because the teacher was in charge of school.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't
you be, Kenneth? Yeah.
Right. And I didn't realize the type of stuff Kenneth had going on at home. I didn't realize any of those things. It was just, we're in school, and in school you should just do this. And so that is one of the challenges I have with the lack of separation of the identity within the brand, because it keeps you from developing genuine relationships. It kept me from developing genuine relationships.
It can. And I think that's one of the things that society's switching to now, especially as we went to working remotely and everything with the pandemic, is people are like, wait a minute, I'm not having to go into the office and behave this certain way anymore. And then you start seeing them switch how they dress and their posture. It starts with that on Zoom meeting. Then all of a sudden they start slipping in like maybe some cuss words in the way that they would speak at home. And now we're building different relationships, and we're saying, you know what, now that I'm starting to be me, now that I'm starting to be on Zoom and I realize we kind of don't connect anymore, I'm going to go find myself another job. Right. So that's what we're doing now, is we want to match the job to us where we were raised, that we are going to match ourselves for the atmosphere that we want to be included in. If you want to be, if you want to be invited to brunch. I already have a different idea of how I dress and how I have to behave if I want to be invited to a bachelorette party, completely different, right? So I have to do that. If I want to get hired, I mean, I coach people through the interview process, right? So they say, how am I supposed to behave in an interview? And I can tell them that. I can tell you the magic thing that'll get you hired, but you're not going to be happy. If you're just trying to
Or
fit
last.
No, you'll be asking me in 6 to 8 months how you're supposed to act in another room for an interview, because you're not going to be happy because you're not matching with something that's essentially you. And it really is just like being on your best behavior for the first couple dates. And then you get into it, and the employer are both like, holy crap, what did I get into? And it's because we were raised, or I know I was in that scenario of you and Kenneth. I was raised to go make Kenneth feel better about himself. That's what I would have done while you're in the hallway going, let me show you the page. I'd be like, you insensitive fool. What's wrong with you? You already made Kevin feel bad enough. And now my whole day is going to revolve around making Kevin feel better. Meanwhile, I couldn't tell you what the heck I needed or wanted or did or felt in that day, because everything about me was taught to be wrapped up in the fact that Kevin's having a worse day than you, so put your stuff aside.
And I think one of the things that I find, and it's funny because I know you have a background in training and HR and really personnel development. I find that people who have that very similar situation, like they're caregivers at heart, like at their very core, it is like they're the ones that always make sure in every room everybody's taking, like the little things, like, oh, I keep some, when we have this type of training, I'll have a piece of dark chocolate because I know this person likes dark chocolate and they've been having a rough day. Like that type of detail. But also one of the things that I found, and again, tell me if this, well, not again, but tell me if this is part of your experience, is that for a lot of people who have been in that space, they don't have the skill set or the resources to know how to pull and reserve things for themselves. They can make sure that the detail, that piece of chocolate is there because William had and today is William's 1 year anniversary with the company. He loves dark chocolate, blah, blah, blah. You have that. But when somebody says, hey, what do you need? If it's not something to make somebody else's life better, you go like, let me get back to you on that. Or is your experience different than that?
No, it's not, because you're right. Now, keep in mind that for people that are caregivers, a lot of that comes easy. I feel bad for like the people that I worked with that were part of what we call like the people resources. I hesitate to say human resources because people will think of that as just a specific department. Right. But for instance, the last company I was with, it was literally called the people team. And that was made up of it's human resources, recruiting, employee engagement, training, all of that was, here you go. You guys focus on people. We're over here focused on money or the product or whatever, but you're focused on people. And I could go into a lot of things about how companies do or don't value that particular team. But it's interesting to me for the people that are on those kinds of people teams. And of course, I know other people outside of that particular company. We kind of find each other. It's very easy for us to remember things like that. This person likes sunflowers. This person likes dark chocolate. Okay, it's their 1 year anniversary. Oh, their kid just, lost a scholarship, whatever the case. So I got to make them feel better or recognize them or whatever. So we're memorizing that. And it's fun for us because we love people. That's fun. Whenever we get somebody onto teams like that, where it's difficult for them, we try to walk them through. But if they're essentially not about everybody else's comfort,
they don't fit.
They don't last. What they do is they end up sitting in the background being instructional designers and designing the beautiful training things that I present. Because we don't have them in front of people, because they're just like, I just came to do a job, and we're like, that's a thing?
You could do that? Wait. So you don't leave here and like go home and ruminate on how everybody's day was at work and then try to figure out what you could do tomorrow to fix it? You don't do that? You don't
go home and make personal thank you cards?
Wait, you just go home and then you're just home?
what do you do there? Tell me about this home. Like, so you're you know, because as even in our department, we'd package up little boxes. I'm just like, oh, I know Holly likes coffee, and we would like during the pandemic, we would mail each other care packages. Okay, because we're like, I'm so sorry, I'm not in the office to give you a hug right now. So here's a box with tea inside. This should replace the hug. So, but because we care that much, we're often not thought of as business savvy. And I tell you what, when you are people savvy, you are business savvy. I have businesses that have said to me, do you speak any other languages? I'm like, how many employees do you have? Because that's how many languages I speak. And I promise to genuinely care. It's not fake. But because it's not fake, as soon as I let that job go, I have no idea who the heck I am. And that happened in the last year. I was like, I'm living the dream. I'm going to leave this job and finish this novel and this podcast, and it's great. And as soon as I had nobody else to like get up, focus on, no running to-do list, no, like I like wandering around the backyard going, I literally have no idea who I am, because I suddenly had to represent brand Bonnie. And I'm like, who the hell is that? She has been for over 2 decades, you know, like the face and the voice of big brands and small brands. And in the, like you said, the small business, you're even more visible because it's like 50 employees and everyone's like, we know Bonnie, we go in and we get our hugs from her, right? And then, but the big companies, they're like, do whatever, we barely saw you over there, right? As long as
your numbers came out well and nobody complained, we love her, promote her or something.
Yeah. You kept everybody hired because no one hates you and that they all love their job, and you're going to stay as long as you want to stay and represent us. And when you go home, we actually forgot you existed. It's like, you know, when you were in 3rd grade and you had a teacher and you saw them like at Walmart, and you're like, wait, you came outside of the school? Like,
what do you need? Do you out of pencils or something? I could have, we could have got you something. Why are you here?
Yeah, you don't go here. So it's tough because I mean, like I said, I don't know if the job found me because it's a skill I have, or if I don't know. I would love to say I tailored myself to the job, but I didn't. This is who I am. So if you take basically your personality and you match it to a job, you're going to be a lot happier. It's not work for you to represent something. You're like, this is who the heck I am. But it's also, it's tough because if you work for a place long enough, you'll actually forget who you are when yeah.
But wait, what if you didn't forget who you are? What if you never found out? Watch this. What you described sounds a lot like, did you ever see that movie, The Runaway Bride? For those of you all millennials, I'm gonna give you a moment to just pause here, go Google it, read the synopsis or some YouTube video so you know what Runaway Bride.
You're gonna talk about the eggs. The eggs?
Yes.
But that was huge for me.
But not just the eggs. One of the things that was very confusing for each of the guys that she was with was that it was so perfect. Like they couldn't understand what went wrong. Everything was perfect because and when I talk to people about relationships and stuff like that, and I talk about when you're trying to get married or trying to get in a relationship, all you can demonstrate is that that other person or that other company you can meet their needs. Mm-hmm. You have no idea because you can't tell them that they can meet your needs because you never tried to meet your needs.
No.
Well, you may not even know what they are.
Think about how many times, and we'll have to come back to explain to everyone the egg thing. If I may, the thing that really got to me about that movie, everybody watched it because it was Julia Roberts and it has a great soundtrack. But beyond that, right. But then so the premise of it is that she would want to be in a relationship. So she would suddenly be everything that was everything to this guy. And then she'd get to the point of marriage because that was the goal. That was the next step. I'm trying to be married. I'm trying to, and she'd look down the aisle and be like, it's not me. And then she'd run off. And then she had to spend some time saying, what the heck is me? And the big symbolic diner scene is that she always liked the type of egg that the guy liked. And I think there's no harm in trying new things for people. It's great. Thanks for exposing me to something new. But she had to sit down with like 12 different eggs, which I didn't even know there were 12 different eggs, right? I grew up with 2, scrambled and not. That's it. And you can put it on a sandwich if you want. So she's sitting there with all these eggs I didn't even know existed, trying to figure out which one actually is my favorite, because maybe I want to go find somebody that has the same favorite, or maybe, you know what, I don't need eggs to line up with somebody after all to be happy. And it's actually pretty brilliant in a disguise of a romantic comedy.
It really was. And I think a lot of what you're talking about in this brand recognition is that same kind of thing. Mm-hmm. The people that one of the people who did a phenomenal job as a brand representative for the worst job ever, Kellyanne Conway. When it comes to representatives, she was phenomenal. She took the message further than anyone, it was even reasonably possible. She sacrificed her marriage, her children, her reputation, all to be what the administration needed her to be. Mm-hmm. And that, and again, in the most disgusting, and what I presume that if I talk to my therapist about, he'd be like, oh yeah, no, that's bad. Don't do that part. but in what looks like the most toxic type of brand representation, mm-hmm. she did an amazing job. Like literally on the fly, was so enmeshed in the lie and protecting the president at the time that she coined the phrase alternative facts. That, I mean, just aside from the evil, let's factor out evil. That is brilliant. George Orwell, mm-hmm. none of the writers around communism or socialism could have come up with a level of doublespeak that elegant, that precise, that powerful on command like that.
Yeah, I mean, they hired the right person. That's a darn good fit. One, I would never want that job. Right. Bless anybody that does that job, because I've spent over 2 decades representing different brands, and that's a job I would never ever want. It's like, hi, you're the person. You were like, they would teach you about how people would march into battle, and there was always some sucker with like a drum. And you're like, buddy, you're going to get it. Like, unless you're defending off things with drumsticks, you're going to get it. And that job is the drummer that marches everybody into battle. I have no interest in that job. So I have been representing brands, and that's one where one thing I haven't done is represent, not in business. I had to think about that because we stopped talking about just business a while, right? In business, I've never represented one person, like been their speaker or their representative. Gotcha. But then as soon as I went to say that, because I can't say never, because then I got to go back all the times, right? When you say always and never. And then I realized that I do that, and many of us do that for someone in our family. I'm going to, okay, mommy, I'm going to represent you because I'm little you, right? Or, okay, I go to meet the boyfriend's parents or something. I'm going to dress a certain way. I'm going to be like, give me the scoop on your parents, because see, now they're my audience and I have to tailor the messages. What's my target audience? My mom's this and my dad's that, and my brother's sporty. And I'm like, great. So I know how I have to dress and what conversation I need to be prepared to have. So it's not that it's not who I am. I'm not being fake, but I'm like, look, I got a bucket of things that's my personality at my age, right? Please tell me which things in the bucket to choose from. But this last year, leaving a job and not representing a brand professionally, I realized that the brand that I had never represented was my own. I didn't get paid for that, so I didn't have time for it, honestly.
Right. Mm-hmm. And honestly, that I think is a lot of the challenge that many of us face is that we equate our our value with our economic return. If something does not, figuring out what they want is absolutely practical. If they want this, they give me money for that. Hello, that makes sense. But trying to, most of our systems, whether they're, how we in our families or even in our profession or our academics, they don't teach us how to care for ourselves. They teach us how to be okay enough so that we can be family members, so that we can be church members, so that we can be good students, so that we can be good employees. I remember one time when I was working for the state, and this is, good insurance, called the Employee Assistance Program, because I was like, I know something's wrong. I started drinking a lot and stuff like that. I was like, I know I need help. So I called the Employees Assistance Program, and they said, they took my information, said, so is this a referral from your supervisor? I was like, no, she doesn't know I'm calling. Said, oh, did you get a poor performance review? I was like, no, I'm trying to get stuff done so that I don't get those. They're like, oh, well, the way the program works is that you have to be either referred for a behavioral problem or issued by your supervisor or get 2 low ratings. And I'm like, so let me make sure I understand. I don't want those things. Like, those are the things we all acknowledge are bad. Okay, these are the bad parts. And you're saying I have to be bad before I can get help, but I can't get help not to be bad.
It's so odd to me, because you take somebody who wants to take responsibility and say, I'm proactively heading this off. It's like, no, we need you to like be in the accident before we can talk. It's like, but what if I want to avoid one? Yeah, we don't do that here.
Yeah, that's not really our thing.
No, come back when you're more messed up. We would love that.
Yeah. So if you get a DUI, and actually that was one of them. So and there was one. Do you have any charges like a DUI or anything? Oh, because if you had a DUI, we could absolutely help you. I don't want the DUI. Like I literally here, because I mentioned the drinking, whatever, and I realized that it was coping, but it hadn't gotten to the point where it was excessive yet, ish. But I knew that it was going in a direction I didn't want.
Yeah.
And I was told if you had only gotten a DUI, like if you could just, we could, and they wanted to help, but they could not help me.
They're like, we see what's coming. Call us back in about 6 weeks by our calculations when you should. Well, so I'll say 2 things here. One, the employee assistance programs that I've encountered have not been that. And I'm glad to say, because I think it's been a while since you had that job.
Yeah. It's been
a lot of things have changed, especially in our society with, with mental health, with wellness. This is now a focus of some companies. And so the ones that I've dealt with, I know have talked to former coworkers, even like connected them to talk about a suicide. So I highly recommend, it's one of those resources, especially, this is one of the things where if you work for a medium to large size company, they have, the EAP, employee assistance, EAP number. It's usually one of those things that was posted up by the copier, and now we're remote. So you're not walking by the copier going,
taking out a number real quick.
Yeah. So you kind of got to look for it. A lot of times it's on like your automatic payroll system. They're listed there because human resources is trying to keep that confidential. They don't want you to come, because if you come to them and you're like, what's the EAP number? They're like, oh, we know an employee has a problem now.
Oh, so let's talk about that. Specifically places like, I don't know about your people team, but specifically places like human resources, be very clear that they work for the company. Their jobs are to protect and do what's in the best interest of the company. That doesn't mean that they're just going to follow directions and throw people under the bus. But always remember that when you are asking, if there's a situation where you're asking someone in HR to fight for you, what you're actually asking them is to put their jobs on the line, because they are employees of the company. And a lot of, and I'm talking about some of the, and again, I want to know your experience, because if there's other experiences out there, but I know that this is a risk that I see a lot of people have. Like people in HR are normally friendly. And I've seen this happen on the legal side, where they're going to the person in HR and they think the person in HR is helping them. And then they share all of this information and some of the stuff that they really probably shouldn't share. And then they get the letter from HR or from the company that details the stuff that was private between us that is now part of the record.
That's a problem with the company.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sorry, big, real quick. Bonnie and my ex-wife and some of my best friends are in HR, people management, and stuff like that. That is not, and I don't even want to make that seem like that is the normal experience. But I would prefer that you be cautious about sharing things with people in HR, because at the end of the day, even if they want to help you, they're going to help you means that they would have to like turn on the company, and depending on what type of company it is, that might cost them their job.
It depends on what your issue. When you're saying, well, I want them to fight for me, is it to get, I'm trying, is it to get your, short-term disability extended so you can stay on maternity leave longer? That might not be a fight they can actually do for you because you've already been out the 6 weeks or so. I think like it depends what the fight is. This is why I love that EAP line, because here's something about people team jobs when they're done right. And so when I say people team, I am looping that into like a lot of times communication, marketing can go back and forth, right? Between that and business development and all. So this whole group of people, I was not able to. So as associate vice president of training, as a communication strategist, as a change management strategist, as anybody who is delivering a message or representing a brand, I was not making personal friends with people in the company. I cannot connect with them on Facebook. LinkedIn, yes, because this is business, but
it's business appropriate.
Yes, exactly. But you weren't going to the happy hours, or you could go with the rest of the people team. But in that case, you can't discuss anything personal. You're never sitting out at happy hour going, oh, you're not going to believe what happened at work today. Like everyone else
we don't
does.
have that luxury.
No, we can't. So the warning sign is if you're really good friends with somebody in HR, that always worries me, unless it's a very small company. But that, because sometimes as much as everybody on that people side love people, we actually can't be objective and be friends. And so if you have an HR representative who is your absolute buddy, I wouldn't necessarily confide in them, because like you said, they represent the company. And I have a lot of friends in HR, but I don't ever talk to them about work unless it's about policy. Like, hey, can you remind me, our next paid holiday? Like that's the conversation we have. If not, it's completely about family or something else. It can't be about work.
But the other part about it too is that a lot of these rules and regulations and policies and stuff like that, some of them are unspoken. They're not, or not necessarily unspoken, but they're understood more from kind of the nonverbals and kind of the customs and usages. And some of the challenge becomes for many of us who may not have, so from moving from a government context to a large corporate context to a small business context, each of those cultures and even how you engage the human resources function, how you manage the brand. Hell, if they even understand what brand means. Like, some of these smaller companies, they're like, oh, I want you to come and do marketing. I want you to come and do branding. And like, okay, so who is your target market? Oh, everybody is. Oh, okay. And the funny part is, you know exactly what I was talking about. Like, I hate that answer. It's like, okay, I'm going to have to charge you extra because it's the waste of my time tax. Because no, it's the remediation tax. Because if you start there, in my experience, that means that answer suggests that there's a lot about business you don't know, or you don't think that I do.
I think a lot of times with small businesses, what I've encountered is they love doing what they do. And they're like, well, I don't want to rule out somebody that might want my services. And I'm like, but that's really not what we're talking about. I mean, if somebody wants to find you, they'll find you. When we're talking about a target market, we're talking about it from the perspective of, again, since my expertise is messaging to audiences, I need to know who your audience is. If I walk into a room and I have no idea who's going to be there, That might be the scare. I'm not afraid of heights. I'm not afraid of snakes. What I'm afraid of is walking into a room with 100 people and I don't know anything about any of them. I don't know likes, dislikes, backgrounds. I don't know any of it. And that scares me. And so when you take away defining that target market, that's exactly what you're asking somebody in branding to do. I'm not trying to rule out anyone. If someone else wants to come into the room, that's great. But can you tell me what you generally are expecting in that room?
So what I'd like to also point out is that the Grinding Gang has a wonderful training on identifying your target customer. Actually, that's a very specific thing we do, primarily because a lot of people have this idea of their target customer in their head. The problem is that most of us aren't qualified to create a customer profile, because we're making it up on what we believe that they may possibly want. And it's like, whoa, have you talked to anybody? And so the way that we run people through that is that we actually help you identify people in your life, help you identify why you want them to be your target customers, and help you have engaging conversation and do market research with them, so that at least you have some meaningful real life information in order to start planning and deploying your resources. Unless you're sitting on a whole bunch of money. Because if you're sitting on a whole bunch of money, you can experiment with whatever. You could, can experiment with this brand, or if you have a great bunch of customers that are just, or if you sell insulin and everybody's a diabetic and nobody else makes insulin. Like you could wear a clown hat. Like, what are you going to do? Not get insulin. But if you are in a competitive market space, the better you know about your target customer, to Bonnie's point, the more you know about them, the more you can focus your limited resources and getting that maximum return on investment. So, you can make sure that you hook up with Team Fish over here. The Team Fish, I love that. Oh, I love that. But you can hook up with her or reach out to the Grinding Gang. And we also do a lot of collaborative stuff together. So, yeah, make sure that you, the target, you cannot know less about your target customer, because that will just end you. And the reason you do, but you know why? Yeah, I love telling this story. Because so if I wanted to get married again, right, and I wanted to marry my ideal woman, that would be difficult. I'm gonna tell you one very specific reason why it would be difficult. Because my ideal woman is exactly 5'3" tall, barefoot or in heels. Every time, because that is the appropriate height to take pictures with me, and like if we're standing there, that is a wonderful height to be. But I found out that women don't have collapsible knees, so like she has to have the heels change things. So I can't find her no matter what. So that's hyperbolic, but that's sometimes what you sound like as small business owners talking about your customer. I want a customer who's able to meet me and pick up the product here and wants it and willing to pay whatever. Oh, honey, yeah, you do. 5'3", right? Yeah, she's gonna be 5'3".
I own every pair of shoes that there are. I can say that. And yes, those shoes do not exist. But that is the biggest starter conversation is that I have with people. And then the rest is, what is your brand representing? Because that is everyone you're recruiting. That is everything that you're selling. That is everyone that you're selling to. And even more so is if you are starting a small business and it's you or maybe you and one person, then yes, you do have to represent your brand. You are your entire brand. You don't have a product that represents it. You don't have a service. You are absolutely your brand. You're your brand when you're selling it. You're your brand when you're sleeping. I promise you, if you are a one person crew. It's the same way for consultants, right? Yeah. So yeah. I know that. So that's what you're representing each time. And from there, when you're thinking about what is the message that I'm sending or what is the thing I'm selling, it's often, even if you have a product, like on Etsy, right? So I have some clients that are on Etsy and they're like, well, how do I have more people find me? It's like, you might have a product you're selling, but you're selling something else. It's like, I do website content, right? Because you need your website to speak for you where you can't. That it absolutely has to represent your brand. And if your website is clunky and hard to find and words are spelled wrong, I'm like, I'm not sure she can crochet me this bird, right? Because like, so I'm associating that with your brand. I'm like, if you don't care how you're representing yourself online, do I really think you care about the product that you send me? So sometimes it's even tougher when you're a small business. When you're a big business, we watch a lot of them be forgiven for all kinds of things.
Oh yeah,
right?
they can buy forgiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah, people be like, oh no, you must have meant something different, or wait till the grant. Don't get mad because grant season is coming up. You know, we'll wait and we'll see how the grant season comes out, and then after grant season, then we'll protest.
My favorite is sometimes when I see the phrase in public relations where they say, "We're sorry you misunderstood the message," and I'm like, "Oh, you did not just blame me for how I heard what you said.
I didn't say anything fucked up. You heard it fucked up."
Yeah, you're already there, so you heard it that way. I'm like, no. So I know. And here's my specialty is when I walk into a room. My specialty is knowing I have one sentence I can say. I can't stand there and talk all day long. It feels like it sometimes to people, but I can't talk all day long. So I have one sentence, and that one sentence has to resonate with the different people that are in the room. So you go, okay, I have 100 people in the room. They are different ages, different generations, different education background. They have, they are at different points in their career. They care about different things. They have different job roles. You have one sentence, now go. So that's part of the magic of being a facilitator or a trainer or, a change management expert is to know what's going to resonate with everyone. And then here's the next thing, and potentially not offend anyone so that you don't lose any of your audience. So when a company tells me it's my fault because I heard the message wrong, it is the one thing that will piss me off every time, because I think, no, if you were good at your job, you would have taken care of that.
That's something you should think about.
Yeah, like when some companies release products and all of us are going, no, what were you thinking? Like, how do you have that person on your team? How did this get funding and get made? Like, we all know. How did they not know? Like that this was entirely inappropriate. Thank you for introducing that into our market. Like
yeah. And some of it is this idea that we should know. There's this idea that you are expected to know and to show up with all of these things the way that I want you to. That when you show up with a company's brand and they are expecting things from you as a customer that they didn't communicate with. And it kind of goes back to the conversation that we had earlier about branding, is that it is your communication. And communication doesn't matter what the hell in communication. It doesn't matter what you meant. It really only matters what they heard, because that the receiver is the owner of the information. You are transferring ownership. If I'm bringing you a stack of, those old movies where they bring in a pie or something, whoa, and I drop it on the floor, or I drop it on your face. Well, I did bring you the pie, but it's on your face. So. But honestly, we live in a corporate culture of what's like, well, I got it to the table, didn't I? That's the only thing I promised. Yeah, but I'm wearing it though.
Yeah, that was my job. I kept my commitment.
Yeah, I delivered it to your table. Now, granted, it's not, but it is that kind of thing. And some of it is really because the companies don't understand what the hell their brand is themselves, because they don't talk to their customers. Mm-hmm. They look at their customers, see they're making money, and they make all of these stories in their head about why you keep doing business with us. You keep doing business with, like, politicians do the same thing. Oh, I'm so smart. And it's like, no, you sign budget bills. Like, dog, like nobody gives a damn what you think. Nobody cared about what you thought until your first name was the honorable. And now when you get that, it's like, yeah, I am smart. Because now everybody, oh, can we take you? Just tell us your opinion on something. It's like, I am so smart. I am so smart. And I've won this office and I worked really hard and I'm very smart. It's like, no, you sign stuff.
Well, I would hope, and this is again with branding, right? So when we elect somebody, we want them to represent us, right? So I'm looking for somebody that represents the things that I care about. And I want to know, because I've ghostwritten speeches. So I do this. And the one thing I won't do is I'm not going to put words in your mouth knowing you don't believe them. I'm not going to go let people think that you care, because they're going to elect you. And then behind the scenes, you're just like, well, that was some words that girl wrote me. Like, I'm not going to do that. But so I got to draw a line, and I know you want to say something there, but the one thing is that we really hope that when, you know, they're put into it, if they're sent to vote on something, that they're going to represent my interests, right? Because I believed that my politician was Brand Bonnie. That's my belief. Where if you look at the flip side and you're working for something like that, they're like, well, my job is to represent everyone, but I can't make everyone happy 100% of the time. So this time my vote's not actually representing Brand Bonnie. A politician is another thing. I will work with them. I love them. I believe so many of them start with this great heart, like I'm going to help everyone. And it's impossible. This is coming from me finding the right sentence to say to 100 people at the same time. I find it impossible to represent everyone all the time. I can't do it in my life. I can't represent my mom and my brother and my nephew and my employer and my best friend. I can't represent all that at the same time.
Not just representing them. And I think, and I want to separate the idea of being a representative of them or versus meeting their expectations of you. And those in the professional piece we were talking about before, there's a huge overlap because that's why they pay you as a marketing or branding professional, is because that's what you do. Like there's no other basis of your relationship. But when you're moving into some of these places, especially in families, that branding becomes really big. And one of the things that and if we could talk, spend a little bit of this time talking about this, is where do you draw the line? And I like the fact that you talked about drawing the line. I'm not going to put words in your speeches that I know you don't believe. Yeah. But where do you draw the line between your identity? Can there really be a hard line, a hard, bright line, and this is where this all stops? When you really are representing a brand, how do you navigate that, the need for authenticity and the need for representation?
Well, the answer is there's a reason I don't work at the first job that I had. Because if I get asked to do that amount, like if you say to me, I want you, I even sold cars at one point, right? So let's just, young Bonnie, I remember her. She sold cars, right? And so, well, because let me just say, I've always been the kind of person that if I wanted to know something for my personal life, like I was in the market for a new car, I'm like, well, why don't I get a job doing that? Because then I'll have the behind the scenes scoop, right? So I sold cars for about 6 or 7 months. And I'm not going to tell you that a Toyota Highlander has a feature that it doesn't have. Like, that's not something I'm going to do. Just as I'm not going to tell you that it comes in, radiant green if it doesn't. So I'm not going to do that. And it's simpler to say that with a car, but I'm not going to do that with the products and service of a business either. And I've been asked, like, can you write this pitch to this client knowing that we're in the middle of building that service? So are things going to do that in like 6 months? I'm like, okay, well, here's how I'm going to build it in. I'm going to say that is, an upcoming service that, we're on our way to that. We can talk about how it's in development. You can have them talk to one of our development people, whatever you want to do, but I'm not going to say it does that. Right. And so if they want that, it's tough because then they're going to have to edit what I wrote. And this is why, like, I get asked a lot for a portfolio and I'm like, that's tough because everything that I write was always meant to be delivered by someone else. It was until my last job, I didn't ever deliver the message directly, not 100% of my job. My job was to be a ghost. And so if I said, oh, okay, take a look at this speech by so-and-so, I can't say, okay, but not that line, not that line. Oh, he rewrote that. So it's also synonymous with me. And if any of the message got changed, I didn't want to be associated with it anymore. And then eventually I'm not staying in that role because dishonesty, I might not know always what Brand Bonnie is because I'm busy representing a corporate brand, but I know dishonesty is not it. Gotcha. I know that's one of those things. You have to have a heart, like just like you have relationship deal breakers, you have to have that for yourself in business and going, too far. I'm now out looking for a job behind the scenes, right? You have to have that. So I mean, know your, like a relationship, know your red flags and know your deal breakers. You have to do that in business too, or you can get caught up in an unhealthy company culture. And like you said, you have these company cultures with unwritten rules and that you go in representing. And the thing that I have done the most over the last 6 months is write and rewrite corporate culture documents for small businesses, because they said, we just thought we'd hire people that were like us and they would just behave like us. I'm like, you needed to define. Yeah, you needed to define that. So starting that as a small business and then hire to that. Like, this is what we're looking for, right? And this is what we know will be a successful person in our business. And then you hire to that. You don't hire outside of that and go, hey, here's how we expect you to behave, because then it's too late for everybody. That's like entering an arranged marriage and then being told how you're supposed to behave, and you're like, whoa.
You probably need some of that information up front. All right, so before we always, you got to sell something. You got to tell people how to get in contact with you and stuff like that. Come on, tell them how to get in contact with you. How do they reach Team Bonnie? Meet the fish.
Team Bonnie, right? Yeah. So if you are a small business, hey, even if you're a large business, if you're looking to make a major transition, you're like, I need to know how to reach my audience. I need to grow my business enough to be acquired. I need to sell this new product, whatever it is that you're looking to do. You can reach me at TeachMetoFish@gmail.com. That's my direct email, as I won't even send you through a website at this point, but fish is spelled FISCH, like my last name. So teach me to fish, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm not just going to do it for you. I'm going to teach you to be the skill sets and to be self-sufficient in a lot of ways on your own. So I don't like to just keep the knowledge to myself. I believe it. You
out here sharing stuff with people, trying to make them better and shit like that.
The people team are sharers, William.
So wait, let's make sure. Is this it? Oh, that's absolutely not it. That I don't know what the hell that was.
The one thing that you could have spelled wrong was fish, but you spelled Gmail wrong. So yeah.
Because that's what it was. I was so focused on the fish. I was like, okay, I'm gonna nail this one.
Yeah, it throws you. Yeah.
All right. So I feel so funny. I have so much empathy for my mom right now because she types real slow, and I'll be sitting like, hurry up. Is that it? We're good?
That's it. That's how you can find me, or of course through the Grinding Gang as well. William, I know you'll know where to find me.
Oh yeah, I keep tabs on Bonnie. She can't go too far. With Bonnie and I go back like babies and pacifiers. What's this like? Do we have 30 years yet?
Your kids were literally babies with pacifiers at that point.
Oh wow, they were. So no, we got over 20 years in. Yeah, it literally baby with a pad. Oh my god, he was fresh out of the oven. Yeah, like
yeah, he was brand new, and now he's wowing the world. So yeah.
Oh, I told you he's going to Botswana, right?
No, I would remember that. No, he's amazing. Nothing surprises me. I didn't make the oh my gosh face, because your sons are amazing. Like I would love to represent their brand now.
Actually, you know what?
That's a brand.
We might, especially for Diddy, the younger one, we may need to do that, because it's so funny. Like I was talking to Lynn a couple years ago, and I looked at her and I was like, you realize that is a very likely chance that we may have to pick our outfits for like a Nobel Prize or like a scientific achievement award. Like that is a very real possibility in life.
Yeah, your kids are amazing.
Wow, that's pretty. That's a lot of pressure. I'm glad that they're like out of the house now, so it's less pressure, because like I've done as much damage or help as I'm going to be able to do. Is
it less pressure? You're just like, oh my gosh, you're out there wandering around by yourself now.
Oh, you know what? You are absolutely right. Because that's sitting like, oh my God, where are you? Hello? Anytime, like, it's so funny. During the pandemic, it was like, hey, you need, and again, that gave me so much empathy for my mother. I was calling like, hey, do you have some hand sanitizer? Because I just got a case of it. And I was so funny. I remember one time I called Diddy and I looked at the phone like, oh my God, I have become her. Like, you got some hands? I can mail you some down because I got Amazon and I have Prime. I have Prime and it can come overnight ship. Well, that hand sanitizer, it takes 3 days shipping because I heard the conversation and I was like, what has happened to you? Sir,
no, you're the parent. Yeah. Yeah. Well, don't worry. For better, for worse, your son's turned out amazing. There are times where I'm looking at, teenagers I'm surrounded with, or even this 21-year-old who has a job now. And I sometimes want to call her employer and be like, is she okay? Are you guys okay? Like, did she say something weird the other day and am I responsible for it? Like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, we let them out there like 9 hours a day without adult supervision. And so, yeah, she's building her brand right now. So we'll let her go do that. Yeah.
That is so awesome. All right, Bon Dizzle for Rizzle. I so appreciate you coming on the show today. You all, hey, make sure you all know how to find her. TeachMetoFisch at gmail.com. Thank you so much, Bonnie. I'm looking forward to you coming back and talking again, and maybe we could talk about a couple of case studies, a couple of clients you have. You can talk through how you work with them to achieve their boys and girls. I told you all I know dope people. I know dope people. We're so grateful for Bonnie to coming through today and just really blessing us with some information about creating your own brand and also really thinking a little bit about that work-life balance. How much of your life are you willing to commit? All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we have had another great time. You all got to meet another one of my great dope friends. And guess what? We will be black tomorrow.